This lesson is on 1.2 multi-step equations. The essential questions here is how can you solve a multi-step equation, and also how can you check the reasonableness of your solution. So if we're looking at our key idea here, we're looking at solving multi-step equations. To solve multi-step equations, use inverse operations to isolate the variable. So when we're looking here, the height in feet of a tree after x years is 1.5x plus 15. After how many years is the tree 24 feet tall? So first I'm going to write the equation. 1.5x plus 15 equals my 24, because that's what I want it to be. So our first thing is to undo the addition. The opposite or inverse operation of addition is going to be subtraction. So we're going to subtract 15. And remember, whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So now I'm going to end up with 1.5x is equal to 9. Now we need to undo the multiplication, because whenever you have a number next to a letter like it is here, this 1.5 times x, it's multiplying. So the inverse operation of multiplying is to divide. So we need to divide by 1.5. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other. These will cancel each other out, and we're left with just x on this side. And over here we have 9 divided 1.5, which is going to be 6. So the tree is going to be 24 feet tall after 6 years. So the right answer is 6 years. So let's look at example 2 here. We have an equation here. 8x minus 6x minus 25 equals negative 35. The first thing you need to do here is we need to combine like terms in order to solve an equation. So right here, if we're looking, we've got 8x and a minus 6x. And remember, you can only combine like terms when they're on the same side of an equation. So we have an 8x minus 6x, which is going to give me 2x. We still have our minus 25 is equal to a negative 35 on this side. Now that we've combined our like terms, our next step is going to be to undo the subtraction. So in order to undo the subtraction, I need to do the inverse operation, which is going to be to add 25. And whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other. So these are going to cancel out, and I'm going to be left with 2x right here. And negative 35 plus 25 is going to leave me with a negative 10. So now, our next step is to undo the multiplication. If you notice, we're doing what's called a reverse PEMDAS order. So just like you add and subtract before you multiply divide, to undo an equation, you're going to undo the multiply and divide before you undo, you're going to undo the add or subtract before you undo the multiply divide. So reverse order of what PEMDAS would be. But these would cancel out. You're left with x is equal to negative 5. So if we're looking now at example 3, we're going to be using the distributive property to solve an equation. So we've got a couple extra steps we're going to have to work on here. The first thing we need to do here is to distribute, which is to pass out this 2. So I'm going to have 2 minus 10x plus 4 is equal to a negative 8. Now that we've distributed, our next step is going to be to combine like terms. I've got a 2 here, and I've got a plus 4 here. Remember, can only combine on the same side. So I'm going to be left with a negative 10x plus 6 equal to negative 8. So now we're down to the point where it's a two-step equation, and we undo what is added or subtracted, which right now, and you're always trying to do it away from the variable. So we have added 6, so to undo that, we're going to subtract 6. Whatever you do to one side, do to the other, those cancel out, and I get negative 10x here. And a negative 8 plus a negative 6 is going to give me a negative 14. So now our final step here is going to get rid of what's multiplied or divided, which we've multiplied a negative 10. So divide a negative 10, and you're going to get that x is equal to negative divided by a negative is a positive. So we end up with 7/5, or if you put it in your calculator, it was 1.4. So how is this really going to help us? So let's look at a real-life example. We're going to use the table to find the number of miles X you need to run on Friday so that the mean number of miles run per day is 1.5. Write an equation using the definition of mean. So to write this equation, remember, mean is when we add all the numbers together and divide by how many. So we've got 2 plus 0 plus 1.5 plus 0 plus x. And we're going to take that and divide all of that by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's going to equal our 1.5. Sorry, you can't read that real well. I'll change the color so you can see the 1.5. Okay, so now that we've got our equation, let's combine our like terms. So right now, all of these are the same. We can combine all of those. And when you add those together, you end up with 3.5 plus x divided by 5 is equal to the 1.5. So now we need to undo the division first. Because even though I just got done saying the whole PEMDAS, the division is being divided by everything. So we need to get rid of it first. So to do that, we're going to multiply by 5. So we're going to multiply both sides by 5, because remember, whatever you do to one, do to the other. And we're going to get 3.5 plus x is equal to 7.5. So now our next step is to get rid of what's added or subtracted, such as our negative 3.5. Cross those out, and we end up with x equal to 4. So you need to run 4 miles on Friday so that your average is 1.5 per day. Do the problems at the bottom of the page on your own and bring them up to me to check, and then get started on your clever assignment.